The galaxy called it the silent halo long before anyone understood what it truly was. It encircled a modest star system on the Orion Spur, a place the inhabitants simply referred to as humanity's cradle. No treaty forbade entry. No armed fleets patrolled its borders. And yet, an unspoken law had spread through every starfaring culture. You do not cross the halo. Ever. Supreme explorer Lyra Jorwin of the Valen Astral Assembly had spent her life studying that rule. She never trusted legends. Legends were just truths no one had the courage to investigate. As she floated in the observation dome of her flagship Vela's Oath, the glowing band of distorted space shimmered in front of her, beautiful, mesmerizing, and deadly. Her sensors could not decide what they were seeing. The halo was not a physical barrier, nor a simple energy field. Space-time itself folded there like cloth caught in a whirlpool. Light bent at impossible angles. Signals vanished as if swallowed by a cosmic throat. Still no response? Lyra asked. Her communication officer, a soft-spoken feather being named Seren, shook their crest. None, explorer. No warnings, no beacons. The halo reacts to nothing. Lyra inhaled, steady and controlled. If the Valen Assembly wanted answers, she would find them. The galaxy had lived under superstition for too long. But history was not on her side. 2 centuries earlier, the Draft Conclave had sent a war fleet into the halo. Not a single ship returned, not even debris. 100 years later, a coalition of scholars attempted peaceful entry. Their vessels transmitted one burst of pure static, then silence. No wreckage, no trace. It was the quiet that terrified Lyra the most. Destruction left remains. Fear left echoes. But this erased. Her mission was supposed to be a simple scan from a respectful distance. But curiosity, that dangerous whisperer, had already begun to stir in her thoughts. And curiosity, she knew, had shaped destinies and doomed civilizations. Explorer, Siren suddenly said, feathers bristling. There's movement inside the halo. Lyra spun toward the viewport. A small craft drifted toward them, emerging from the shimmering distortion like a ghost leaving a dream. It was primitive, at least by Valen standards. Angular metal plating, exposed thrusters, crude hull seams. But it moved with intent, and it came from inside the forbidden region. That is a human vessel, Siren whispered. Lyra's pulse quickened. Impossible. No human ship has ever left the halo. The craft slowed and positioned itself directly ahead of Vela's Oath. Its front lights blinked in a deliberate pattern. A language protocol handshake. They're signaling us, Siren reported. Open the channel. Static hissed, then cleared. A calm, steady voice filled the bridge. Unidentified Valen vessel. This is Envoy Raphael Hale, representing the Human Protector Directorate. We have been tracking your approach. You are dangerously close to an unstable perimeter. Lyra swallowed. A human, speaking directly. No species had reported two-way contact in over 1,000 years. Not since humans withdrew behind the halo and vanished from galactic affairs entirely. This is Supreme Explorer Lyra Jorwin, she replied. We approach in peace. We seek understanding. A long pause. Too long. Then the envoy spoke again. Explorer, you stand at the threshold of something your galaxy is not prepared to face. The halo is not a border we enforce. It is a seal, a scar from a war older than your sun. And it is weakening. Lyra felt the words like cold metal sliding under her skin. Weakening? A seal? Against what? Another silence. Heavy, calculated. Then, against what created us. And what wants us back. Every officer froze. Envoy Hale's tone hardened. You came looking for answers, Explorer. If you truly desire them, I am authorized to meet with you. But understand this. Once you know the truth, the galaxy will never feel safe again. The channel cut. Lyra stared at the halo, its folds of space pulsing like a heartbeat. Curiosity whispered again. Only this time, it sounded like destiny. The shuttle ride toward the rendezvous point was a study in controlled fear. Lyra sat alone in the compact craft as it glided through the stillness near the silent halo. Her flagship, Vela's Oath, shrank behind her until it was just a faint silhouette against the starfield. Protocol required only a single envoy for diplomatic contact, but the truth was simpler. She couldn't risk her crew. If this was a trap, better one life than thousands. She had memorized every rumor about humans. Half-myths, really, mad scientists of the stars. Last descendants of some divine experiment. Or worse, architects of their own extinction. But no one had ever described them with accuracy. No one had seen them in centuries. And now, one had summoned her personally. As her shuttle drifted closer to the coordinates provided, space shimmered, warping like liquid. A structure unfolded from nothing. One moment it wasn't there. The next, it existed fully, as if reality had been edited. A station, small, unassuming, matte black. It absorbed light like a starless void. No insignias, no visible defenses. It looked like the exact opposite of what legends claimed humanity to be. Her shuttle docked with a hiss of pressure equalization. The inner door slid open. A man, presumably envoy Raphael Hale, waited calmly inside. He didn't look like the legends either. No towering warrior. No armored guardian forged by gods. Instead, he looked tired, worn by sleepless nights and heavy truths. His eyes, however, those were something else entirely. Depths like collapsing stars. Pain, intelligence, calculation. And behind all of it, restraint. Supreme Explorer Lyra Jorwin, he said, offering a hand. Thank you for accepting this meeting. Few would. Curiosity outweighs fear, Lyra replied, mimicking the handshake the way she had trained. Careful, Raphael said with a faint smile. Curiosity is why I'm standing here, hoping we have enough time left. His wording unsettled her. They moved into a long chamber lit only by soft blue floor lights. No chairs, no screens, just a single round table made of some black stone she couldn't identify. Before I explain anything, Raphael said, I need to know your intentions. Why approach the Halo? Your ship has been studying its perimeter longer than most. Lyra straightened her posture. My assembly believes superstition is stunting scientific progress. The Halo is the greatest unknown in the map regions. We aim to understand it. And if understanding leads to danger, knowledge always does. For a moment, Raphael simply watched her, analyzing, weighing her sincerity. Then he gestured, and the center of the table rippled like water. A hologram spiraled upward. Not a galaxy, not a star chart. A wound. Space itself torn open like fabric ripped by claws. Colors she had no name for bled from the rift. Matter twisted into impossible shapes. The hologram radiated silent violence. What is this? She whispered. A glimpse, Raphael said, of what lies beyond the Halo, beyond our birth, beyond sanity. Lyra forced herself to look deeper. Creatures moved in the hologram. If they could be called creatures, layered beings, existing in multiple angles at once. More shadow than substance. More idea than flesh. Nightshades, Raphael said quietly. The ancient enemy. The ones who engineered humanity. Lyra turned sharply toward him. Engineered? You mean humans were created? Yes, Raphael answered, voice steady. But not as servants. Not as soldiers. Not even as a species meant to thrive. No, humans were designed for one function. To be an anchor. An anchor, she repeated. Against these? Nightshades. Against their return, Raphael corrected. He expanded the hologram. Now Lyra saw a timeline millions of years long. A war fought in silence. Entire star systems converted into dead husks. Architects, ancient entities far beyond human or alien comprehension, building humanity as a final instrument. Humans were unfinished when the architects vanished, Raphael said. But we retained the one trait they believed could defy extinction. Adaptability, Lyra whispered. Worse. Raphael tapped the table, and another image formed. Human DNA fractal-like, shifting, unpredictability. We can become what we need to survive. The architects hoped that would be enough. And the Halo? It's the lid on a grave, Raphael replied. and the grave is starting to open. Lyra felt every organ in her body sink. How long do we have? If nothing changes, a few centuries at best, maybe decades. The nightshades are pushing, testing the boundary. Humanity fights them constantly, but we are stretched thin and we are incomplete. He looked at her with those weary, star-filled eyes. That is why I contacted you. Lyra swallowed. You want help? No. He leaned closer. I want allies, because when the halo falls, the nightshades will not stop with us. They will feed on your worlds next. The lights in the room dimmed. Outside the station window, the silent halo pulsed, as if something on the other side was knocking. For a long moment, Lyra could not speak. Her mind reeled, trying to absorb the enormity of what Raphael had shown her. The silent halo wasn't forbidden region by choice. It was a pressure seal, holding back a catastrophe the galaxy had never imagined. Raphael let the silence breathe. He seemed familiar with this reaction, like he had delivered this truth before many times, and had watched it crush the unprepared. Finally, Lyra found her voice. If humanity is the last creation of these architects, then where did they go? And why leave such a burden to a single unfinished species? Raphael walked to the edge of the chamber. A wall slid away, revealing a vast observation window. Beyond it, the halo stretched like a cosmic aurora, colors spiraling, bending, writhing in unsteady waves. We don't know why they disappeared, he said, but we've pieced together fragments from relics they left behind. They weren't gods, not in the way myths described them. They were scientists, engineers of reality, but they were also refugees. Refugees? Lyra asked. Yes, Raphael said, running from something far worse than the nightshades. He tapped the panel. The view outside darkened as a projection layered over it. Ancient structures flickered, massive rings around dwarf stars, black spires taller than moons, card symbols etched across asteroid belts. These are architect ruins buried across the halo, he explained. We found them only in the last 2 centuries. They were hiding from predators we have never encountered, entities that consume dimensions themselves. The nightshades were merely scouts, a feral splinter of something more terrifying. Lyra shivered. Even the thought of being stronger than the nightshades made her stomach twist. And humans, why create you specifically? She asked. Raphael hesitated, not from uncertainty, but from caution. We believe, he began slowly, that humans were never meant to be warriors. We were meant to be anchors, living stabilizers. He studied her reaction. Our biology is chaotic. Our minds break, rebuild, adapt, mutate under pressure. We can hold fractures in reality without collapsing. Where most species unravel at the first brush of dimensional interference, humans change. We survive. Lyra nodded. She'd heard rumors. Human explorers who survived hyperspace anomalies that should have obliterated them. Human pilots who reacted faster than machines. Their uncanny ability to resist psychic attacks. You're saying your unpredictability is intentional. Our curse, Raphael said softly, is our purpose. He turned away from the window, expression sharpened by urgency. The halo is thinning. The nightshades have been probing it for over 80 years. But something changed in the last decade. They're coordinating. They're learning. And we think they found a weak point near the other side of the halo. Lyra's frill stiffened. And you need the Valen assembly to help reinforce it? Raphael took a deep breath. We need more than reinforcements. We need perspectives, alien minds, alien sciences. The architects designed the halo with technologies humans weren't meant to comprehend alone. We've been trying to repair pieces of it, but we hit a barrier. What kind of barrier? Raphael smiled bitterly. Intelligence. Human minds are too constrained by linear logic, too prone to emotional distortion. You Valens, for instance, you perceive quantum patterns instinctively. Your species navigates probability currents as naturally as breathing. That gives you access to layers of the halo we cannot interpret. He approached the table again, placing his palms flat on the cold surface. Explorer Lyra, we can't do this alone. But we also can't make this alliance public. The moment the galaxy learns what sleeps behind the halo, Panic will fracture every coalition. We need quiet allies, discreet ones. The burden of his words pressed on her like a gravitational field. You're asking me to betray my assembly, she said. No, Raphael replied. I'm asking you to save it. He looked up, eyes burning with restrained urgency. There's an architect construct buried on the far side of your territory. Something dormant, undiscovered for millions of years. We detected its activation signal 2 days ago. It's calling for assistance. Assistance from whom? Anyone who can finish what the architects began. The chamber lights flickered, an energy rippled passing through the station. Raphael stiffened. They're testing the halo again, he murmured. Closer this time. Lyrat stepped toward the window. The shimmering ring outside throbbed, dimming and brightening as if something massive pressed its weight against the other side. Explorer, Raphael said, voice now grim. The architects are gone. Humanity is wounded, and the nightshades are growing impatient. He turned to her fully. If you choose to walk away, the Valen assembly will remain blissfully ignorant until the day they vanish without a trace. Lyrat exhaled slowly. She had always chased knowledge, but now knowledge was chasing her. Lyrat left the human station with a mind spinning like a collapsing star. The shuttle hummed softly as it carried her back toward Vela's oath, but her thoughts were far louder than the engines. A dormant architect construct in Valen territory. Undiscovered. Awakening. Why now? Why call for aid after millions of years? Her shuttle docked, and the airlock opened to a flurry of anxious officers. Siren, her communications officer, stepped forward immediately. Explorer, we detected a surge from a halo. The entire ring brightened for 7 seconds, then dimmed. We thought. I'm aware, Lyrat interrupted, moving quickly across the deck. Prepare the council chamber. We need a sealed meeting. As she walked, crew members exchanged worried glances. The mood aboard the ship had shifted the moment she left for the human station. Now the tension was palpable, like static building before a storm. Inside the secured chamber, her senior officers formed a semicircle. Holographic screens flickered to life. The halo's pulse still looping on one of them. Her second in command, a stern Valen named Drant, studied her closely. Explorer, what did the human tell you? Lyrat inhaled deeply. Everything the galaxy feared, and everything we refused to imagine. She began explaining the truth, carefully but thoroughly. The nightshades, humans engineered as stabilizers. The halo as a containment field. The weakening seal. The ancient conflict between architects and night-born predators. As the facts unfolded, the room grew colder. Drantha's rigid composure cracked. Are you telling us the humans were built as cosmic shock absorbers? Anchors, Lyra corrected. Living stabilizers of dimensional fractures. They were engineered to adapt, mutate, survive impossible conditions. And the nightshades? Siren whispered. What are they? Lyra projected the hologram Raphael had shown her. The officers recoiled instinctively as the multi-angle beings rippled through the image. Creatures whose forms were wrong at a fundamental level. Predators, Lyra said quietly, born in the darkness between dimensions, driven by hunger for order reality. Silence followed. Commander Dranth rubbed his temples. Explorer, this information destabilizes everything. If the assembly learns of this. They can't, Lyra said sharply. Not yet. Panic would spread faster than truth. Siren stepped closer to the hologram. Their feathers trembled. You said something else. Something about a construct within our territory. Lyra nodded and zoomed out the display, highlighting a sector of Valen-controlled space. This region, she said, uninhabited, lightly surveyed. The structure lies buried beneath the lithosphere of an ice moon orbiting a rogue dwarf. Drant frowned. We performed scans there a decade ago. Nothing appeared. Because it was dormant, Lyra replied. But the architects left a failsafe. A signal, activated only if the halo weakened beyond sustainable limits. Siren's eyes widened. And the signal has begun? Yes, Lyra said. Raphael confirmed it started 2 days ago. A low hum vibrated through the chamber, an alarm tone for gravitational anomalies. One of the officers rushed to the console. Explorer, they reported, voice shaking. The halo is fluctuating again, a pattern rhythmic. Lyra's pulse quickened, put on the main display. The chamber walls shifted into transparent panels, revealing the distant halo outside. Its shimmering surface rippled, not randomly, but like a heartbeat felt through space. A pulse, a calling. Siren whispered. It's responding to something. Drantha's voice hardened. Lyra, we need to inform the assembly. This is beyond us. Lyra did not turn. Her gaze remained locked on the pulsating halo, her thoughts replaying Raphael's words. If you choose to walk away, your people will vanish without a trace. She finally faced her officers. Listen to me. The assembly will demand debate, committees, deliberations. Our government moves at the pace of caution. She pointed toward the halo. That thing moves at the pace of hunger. Drantha opened his mouth to protest, but Lyra raised her hand. I am invoking Protocol Sirius. Gasps filled the chamber. Protocol Sirius, an ancient Valen directive, granted Supreme Explorer emergency sovereignty over a fleet, bypassing the assembly entirely. It had not been invoked in 3 centuries. You're taking unilateral control? Drantha demanded. Over something as catastrophic? Yes, Lyra said, her voice colder than starlight, because the architects trusted the universe to adapt. And right now we must. Siren swallowed hard. What is our next move? Lyra brought up the planetary coordinates of the dormant architect construct. We go there, she said. We wake it properly. And we pray the nightshades don't reach it first. Another tremor rippled through space. The halo glowed violently, as if something on the far side struck it with growing force. Lyra stared at the cosmic ring. No longer a boundary, but a beginning. The architects left us a message, she said softly, and it's time we answered. Words. The Valen fleet surged through the void with silent determination, led by Vela's oath at its spearhead. Lyra stood before the panoramic bridge window as the ice moon loomed ahead, an isolated orb of frozen storms orbiting a dim rogue dwarf star. The world was silent, untouched, unremarkable. But beneath its frigid crust lay something older than every Valen civilization combined. Surface temperatures are dropping, Siren reported. The moon is entering a deep freeze cycle. Perfect, Lyra murmured. Our scans will be clearer. Drantha, still uneasy despite obeying her authority, stepped beside her. Explorer, what exactly do we expect to find? A weapon? A power source? Lyra kept her voice steady. Not a weapon. An architect construct. A relay. Something meant to communicate with or reinforce. The halo's stabilizing lattice. Drantha folded his arms. If it's so important, why bury it here? In the farthest reaches of our space. Because no one would come looking, Lyra said. Obscurity is the best defense. The fleet entered orbit. Lyra's shuttle descended along with 2 escort crafts. The ice moon's atmosphere was thin enough to ignore, but the wind still howled like creatures in agony. Siren shivered in their harness. It feels wrong, like the air remembers something. It's fear, Lyra said quietly. Not ours. The planet's. The shuttle touched down on a jagged plateau. Frost cracked beneath their boots. The sky was a bruised purple, lit only by the distant glow of the rogue dwarf star. Their scanning drone hovered beside them, releasing waves of quantum pulses into the ice. Moments later, the ground rumbled. Siren staggered. Explorer, something's moving beneath us. The plateau split with a thunderous crack. Frost fell away, revealing a vast, spiral-shaped structure buried beneath layers of ancient ice. It wasn't metal. It wasn't stone. It was something in between, fluid in form, yet perfectly geometric. An architect construct. Lyra approached the edge of the fissure, all widening her eyes. It's alive. Drantha frowned. Alive? It's a machine. No, Lyra whispered. Machines don't breathe. And this construct was breathing. Slow pulses of blue light rippling across its surface, like lung contractions. Siren checked the readings. Explorer. The pulses matched the halo's fluctuations. Lyrat nodded. The construct woke because the halo is failing. They descended into the fissure via grav lifts. The closer they got, the louder a faint hum became, like a resonant song deep beneath the ice. As they reached the base, a portion of the construct reshaped itself, opening into a smooth, circular chamber. Strange symbols glowed across its walls, patterns shifting like living equations. It senses us, Dranth whispered. No, Lyrat said. It recognizes us. Siren tilted their head. Recognizes? Explorer, we're not human. Exactly, Lyrat replied. The architects never designed humans to work alone. They made the silent assumption that humans would eventually find allies. The chamber brightened. A holographic projection burst to life, a star map unlike any she'd seen. It showed the halo as a sphere of compressed dimensions, thinning in several places like overstretched fabric. One tear glowed crimson. Siren's feathers bristled. That's the weak point, the one the humans detected. As the hologram expanded, it displayed strands of energy, calculations, sequences, patterns that made even Lyrat's advanced Valen intellect ache. These are repair algorithms, she said. Blueprints, but incomplete. Dranth tapped the floating symbols. They require multiple consciousness types to stabilize, human Valen and something else. A triad, Lyrat said, a cooperative interface. The architect designed it so no single species could misuse it. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, the hologram distorted. A shrill signal echoed, like reality screaming. Siren shouted, something just hit the halo's boundary. Lyrat's blood turned cold. It's the nightshade, she said. The construct reacted instantly. Its walls reshaped, forming an interface column covered in glowing filaments. A voice, ancient, layered, neither mechanical nor alive, filled the chamber. Stabilization required. Anchor incomplete. Assist. Lyrat stepped forward, heart pounding. Assist how? She asked aloud, though she doubted the construct could truly understand languages so young. But it reacted. The central platform rose, projecting a new image, one that nearly drove them to their knees. A silhouette of something monstrous, moving on the far side of the halo. Dranth whisper screamed, It's pushing through. Lyrat steadied herself. We're out of time, she said. We activate the construct, now. Dranth stared at her. We don't know how. We learn, Lyrat said, or the galaxy ends. The ground shook again, harder, above them. The sky glowed as a halo far across the void pulsed violently, like a wounded beast struck once more. Lyrat placed her hand on the filament-covered column. Light surged. The construct awakened fully. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the halo, something answered. Light swallowed Lyrat's vision. For a heartbeat, she felt weightless. Then the chamber around her stabilized, reassembling into clarity. The architect construct had linked to her mind. She sensed it rather than saw it. A vast network of dimensional math, woven through her thoughts like threads of starlight. Siren stumbled back. Explorer, your neural patterns, they're merging with the interface. Dranth raised his weapon instinctively. Break the link. No, Lyrat said. Her voice vibrated with an echo that wasn't hers. I can see it. The halo, the fractures, the nightshade pushing through. A gasp escaped her officers. The hologram shifted into her mind's eye, an impossible, multi-layered view of the halo. It was no longer a shimmering ring, but a membrane stretched thin, trembling under relentless assault. A dark shape pressed against it, claws of shadow digging through dimensions, peeling reality like wet paper. The nightshade was enormous, not in physical size, but in dimensional density. It existed in angles and folds that defied sense. As it pushed forward, space warped like liquid. Siren's feathers flattened in terror. Explorer, it's nearly through. Lyrat's voice was calm, but only because something in the construct steadied her. Then we don't have long. She turned to the glowing column. The architects created 3 neural anchors for the system. 3 species meant to interface together. Human, Valen, and one unknown. Dranth lowered his weapon. Unknown? A third species. Yes, Lyrat breathed. But the architects always built with redundancy. We can compensate with two if we synchronize perfectly. Ciaran looked horrified. Synchronize? Our cognition isn't compatible with humans. No, Lyrat agreed, but it might be compatible with the construct, which is compatible with the humans. The construct pulsed as if confirming. A deep, resonant voice rang out. Neither male nor female, neither alive nor synthetic. Sequence initiated. Human anchor required. As if summoned by fate, her wrist communicator flashed. Raphael, she opened the line. The hologram of his face appeared, distorted by static. Lyrat, he said breathlessly. The halo's weak point. Something's forcing it open. We're engaging, but the nightshade is adapting faster than we can strike. What's happening on your end? We found a construct, Lyrat replied. It's awake, but incomplete. It needs you. Raphael exhaled sharply. Coordinates. Lyrat transmitted them instantly. Hold the line, Raphael said. I'm coming. The projection vanished. Dranth stared at her as if she'd gone mad. You're bringing a human here? Directly to a dormant architect machine. Not dormant, she corrected. Awakening. Ciaran checked the sensors. Explorer, the halo is buckling. A breach has begun. The chamber shook violently. Shards of ice broke from the fissure walls, raining down around them. The construct brightened until its glow was blinding. Lyra could feel its urgency, its desperation. It was not a weapon. It was a healer, a stabilizer. The last invention of a species that had fought until their dying breath to contain a cosmic virus. Energetic spike above us. Ciaran yelled. A streak of silver tore through the sky, a small human craft, riding the shockwaves of the halo's ripples. It descended with grit and precision, landing at the edge of the fissure. Raphael leaped out before the engines fully cooled. Brief me, he demanded. Lyrat grasped his arm. You're the human anchor. The construct needs your consciousness to complete the stabilization triad. He glanced at the glowing column. And the third anchor? We replace it, Lyrat said. Our minds together will emulate the missing frequency. Raphael nodded once. No hesitation. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but sometimes their unpredictability manifested as astonishing courage. He stepped toward the interface. The construct thrummed. Anchor 1 accepted. Raphael jerked as luminous strands wrapped around his arms, connecting to his temples. Lyrat placed her hands on the opposite side of the column. Anchor 2 accepted. Dranth stared in disbelief. Explorer, if you merge mind with human. There is no alternative, Lyrat said. Stand ready. The construct's final command echoed through the chamber. Anchor 3, synthesis required. A surge of energy shot upward, linking Lyrat and Raphael in a lattice of light. Their thoughts collided, his memories, her instincts, his rage, her discipline, his fear, her clarity. Two species entangled. Two minds woven into one. And then, the halo. They saw it not as light, but as living geometry. Fractures spidered across it like cracks in glass. The nightshade's claw tore through one of those cracks, ripping reality. Now! Raphael shouted inside her mind. Together, they channeled the construct's power. The ice moon shook. Light poured into the sky, like a sunrise breaking through darkness. The energy raced across space, slamming into the halo's failing section. The breach shrieked with dimensional agony. The nightshade recoiled, its form collapsing inward as stabilizing forces crushed its incursion tendril. And then, with a final thunderous pulse, the halo sealed. Perfectly. Silence followed. Cold, beautiful silence. Lyra collapsed to her knees, the connection severed. Raphael dropped beside her, breath ragged. Ciaran's voice broke the quiet. Explorer. The halo readings, it's stable again. A long exhale escaped Raphael. We bought time. Lyrat nodded, trembling, but not forever. Dranth approached cautiously. What now? Lyrat rose, newfound resolve burning in her chest. Now, she said. We prepare the galaxy, quietly, carefully, for the war the architects could not finish. She looked at Raphael. And we do it together. The construct dimmed, its purpose fulfilled, for now. But far beyond the halo, in the unreachable dark, something stirred, something that had noticed, and it was hungry.